Hi everyone, Arslan here with Elite Residential Design. Today's tutorial is going to be on how we can create master level columns such as the ones you see on the screen right now. These are called Craftsman style columns and typically they consist of having some type of base and then a molding on top and then and then a cap and then our column and then usually have a top cap as well. And the base is usually either brick veneer or stack stone veneer type. So we'll try to mimic this in Revit. And more importantly, the idea with this is to create a parametric family that can be reused and can actually be manipulated very quickly to get the look that we want on another project maybe, right? So with that out of the way, let's hop into Revit and let's get the party rolling. Okay, so I've got my Revit fired up here. We're gonna first quickly go into families and click new. And just an FYI, I'm using Revit 2026, but this works with any other version. I'm gonna go back a folder and go to the English Imperial. I like to work in Imperial, but the same applies to metric families as well. And we're just gonna use the column .rft, which is the template, right? Column family right here, and we're gonna open it up. And let's see what that opens up for us, right? So by default, that's all we got right now. It's just we have two parameters in here. We've got a depth and a width, and that's fine. But if you click up here on family types, I'm actually gonna edit these and rename this. So width, but this is gonna be our base, okay? And same thing for depth, but we're gonna edit this to say depth of our base, okay? And I'm actually going to set these to maybe 18 inches as a starting point, okay? And let's do that. Okay, perfect. So that is our base. So let's actually do an extrusion and set our base. But before we do that, we're going to actually head over to our front elevation here and create a reference plane. So you can go to create a reference plane, and I'm just going to go up anywhere here randomly and create a reference plane, and I'm going to actually name it top of base. Oh, sorry, can't spell. But yeah, just you can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna name it top of base, and I'm actually gonna take a dimension. So DI for dimension, or go up here into annotate and click dimensions. We're gonna go from a lower reference level to our that reference plane top of base that I just created. Okay, I'm gonna set this at about 4 feet. You can Again, we're going to make this a parameter so we can manipulate this later on, but you can set it up to whatever you like right now. I like it as 4 feet, so I'm going to leave it at that. Select the dimension, click up here in the label section to create a new parameter, and we're going to call this, we're just going to call it base height. Okay, we'll leave it as a type instance and we'll hit OK. So now it's a parameter, and if we go back into our family types, you'll see it as a parameter. We got our width of base, depth of base, but then we have our base height as well. So maybe the right, just to be consistent, we can actually just say height base, just so that it lines up nicely with everything. Okay, so that's that. So we have everything in place to at least create our base now. So I'm actually going to go to create extrusion, and we're going to select the rectangle, and we're just going to do this and lock it in place. All right, now the extrusion is going to start at 0, which is our ground level, but then we actually want it going up. So click on this little icon. We want it going up to our height that we define our base to be this high. And then we're going to hit, and while we're here, we can actually apply the material as well. So material by category, but again, we're going to associate a family parameter for this. We're going to call this base material. Perfect. And then we can hit enter. Now, if we open the 3D view, you can see we have our base done here. And we can just go into textures to make sure we can see what material we apply. So let's go back into lower level, select this. You can see we can go back to the family types and actually assign that material now. So let's actually create a new material here, and we'll just call it rename. We'll call it base material. Keep it nice and simple. Click on this, and I'm just going to search for brick. And you can select any of these ones that you like. Try to pick one that makes sense, I guess. Well, it's not really loading for me. These are the ones, but you want to hit masonry and just select something that makes sense. For some reason, they're not loading that easy for me, but if I hit stone, you can see there's a couple in here. Maybe we'll do this one for now. Again, we can change this whenever we want, but let's leave it that and hit apply and hit OK. So now you can see in 3D we have applied that material. So that's our base. Perfect. Our base is done. Now the base is done, remember in our picture we had our base and then we had a molding on top. So now let's create the molding. Okay, so to create the molding, again, we can hit create extrusion, and if you go back in 3D, I'm just going to go set, pick a plane, and we're going to pick the top of this base as our reference plane now, or like the host, exactly where the thing is going to go off of. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to just create a rectangle, and we're going to offset it by 2 inches because I want the molding to come out 2 inches from our base. Okay, and that's that. And then what we're going to actually do is we're going to dimension from the center to here, and we're going to make it equal. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And then we're going to dimension this to this, and also this to this. So like the total dimension. Okay. And then we can dimension this as well. You don't really need to do this, but I'm doing it just to stay consistent. So let's leave it at that. We've got 2 inch. So now what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to go to select this dimension and create a new parameter and call this what would make sense here. We can call it molding offset or something like that. Makes sense. Let's call it a molding offset, and I'm going to pick this as well, and we're just going to pick the molding offset. Running into a bit of an issue here. I'm actually not going to restrain these. We're going to come back, and we're actually just going to we're going to go from the reference plane to this, go from the reference plane to this, go from the reference plane to this, and then do the same thing on this side. And then we're just going to select all three and apply that new parameter of molding offset. Perfect. Okay, now the extrusion end right here, again, we're going to create a new one, and this one we're going to say molding thickness. Makes sense? It's how high we want it to be. So we'll give it a thickness right now to be 2 inches. Okay, so we have something. And then so extrusion again is going to start at 0, and in this instant the 0 is actually the top of our base here. And then the extrusion end, we actually want to make sure that is the molding thickness because that's how high we want it to go. And then for the material, again, same thing. We can create a new parameter for molding material and leave it at that. Okay, and hit enter, and there we go. So we have our molding right on top of our base as well now. So now we can go back here, and just to speed things up here, I'm just going to use the same material for the molding as well. In reality, it's likely going to be cement or something like that. So you can play around with the materials later. I just want to go and show you guys how to actually get this thing fully parametric and assign stuff to it. We can maybe later assign the materials exactly how we want, but we can do that later. So perfect. So that's done. Now the next step that we have to do is we actually have to create the base cap, right? So the base cap is actually sitting basically right on the molding, and then we have our column, and then we have our top cap. So let's do the base cap. So again, for the base cap, what I like to do is, again, create the extrusion, pick a plane, and go to your 3D and just pick top of the molding now, and it'll tell you switch to the level, and be like, okay, that's fine, we'll switch to that. And now you can offset this maybe -4 inches, and we can go from here to here. So let's say our cap is 10 by 10, and then the column will be 8 by 8. Okay, we'll do it in that manner. And then you just want to dimension from the reference plane to here to here. I'm not sure what's going on here. Weird. Okay, but in any case, we want to dimension this to this to this. And I'm actually just going to maybe change the scale here so we can see the dimensions a bit better. Mention this to this to this, equal, and this as well, we're going to make it equal, and then I'm going to dimension the whole thing like this. And these two, I'm actually going to create a new parameter and just say this is our base cap, or I'll actually just call it cap, because in my example, I'm going to have the same base cap and top cap. So we'll just call it cap and call it width and depth. We're going to keep it symmetrical and hit OK. Perfect. And for we'll go back to the extrusion. The extrusion end, you actually want to give it another parameter, and we'll call it cap thickness. Okay, I'm going to go in here and give it a cap thickness of, let's say, 6 inches, and see what that is. And we'll also assign it a material. So we can say cap material. Oh my God. Did not name this right. So I'm just going to redo this and make sure I put the L in there. Okay, so the cap material, actually, I'm going to pick something here. So let's pick something here. I'll call it cap material. And we'll use some white just to keep it similar to what we originally saw. I'm just going to use the white plastic, whatever. And for graphics, we'll use render appearance, hit apply, hit OK, and hit the check mark. And there we go. So then we have our cap on top. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the cap material as the molding material as well. Actually, I think that'll look nicer. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Now we're going to have our column. So I do think I want this to be a bit wider covering the molding. So we'll go back to our parameter and see if we can play around with that. So the cap width and depth, I actually want it to be maybe 12 inches. So you can see how playing with these numbers, everything's super parametric already. So that's perfect. Now that that's done, again, let's keep on going. Let's create another extrusion. Pick a plane, pick the top now. And this one, we actually want it to be 10 by 10. So we'll just use the square again. Offset -4 inches. Select the square. Do this. There's our 10 by 10 column base. And we're going to do the exact same thing as we did on the last one, where we're going to equate these. And then we're going to just do this. Equate these. Do this. Then give it the total width and depth. So we'll just say column depth and width. Perfect. There it is. Now, how far do we want this to come off? So again, we can, because we're keeping it super parametric here, we want to know how high we want it. So let's say our roof is at 9 feet, right? So we've already set this at 4 feet, and then we have 2 inches, and then we have 6 inches. So 6 plus 2 is 8. So we're at 4 feet, 8 inches already. So really, we want this extrusion to go 9 feet minus 4 feet 8 inches. And to do that, to do that, we'll actually have to go hit equals 9 feet minus 4 feet 8 inches. That's 4 feet 4. So we'll copy this and we'll create a new parameter and we'll say column height. And we know what that number actually should be, at least for this case. But because we're making a parametric, you can go in and change this whenever you want. But the nice thing is we do know it for this. So column height, just go and put that 4 feet 4 there. It actually already did it for us, but there, that's how you would do it. And make sure you assign it the material. We'll assign it column material. Hit OK. Go back to the family type parameters, and we want the cap material to be the same as the column material in this scenario as well. Just keep everything nice and white. There you go. So this is coming along really nicely, actually. This looks good. Okay, let's keep going here. So now we're pretty much done, honestly. The only thing we would need to really do is replicate this at the top as well, to kind of finish this off. But you'll notice we'll actually have to reduce this by 6 inches because we're going to have a top cap here. But the total height of this column should really be 9 feet. So let's go back here and just go here and go equals 4 feet 4 minus 6 inches. So it should actually be 3 feet 10. Perfect. So now we can just copy this guy over. So I think the easiest way to do this would be to actually use the copy command and just move the base here. I don't think you can actually do that. So you know what? I'm actually just going to go to 3D and do what we did before. We're going to go create extrusion. We're going to pick a plane. There it is, right? And then we know that this was actually a 12 by 12. So we'll go back and we'll just repeat the exact same thing. We'll do this. We'll go minus 2 inches. And then set this. Sorry, it should be minus 4 inches. Hold on. I'm confusing myself because this is a 10 by 10. This is not a 10 by 10. Sorry about this. I just want to confirm what the size on this thing was. So it's actually a 12 by 12. So we want to keep it the same. So we're going to go here again, create extrusion, pick a plane, pick the top now. And again, we'll just do a square. And we want to make sure the offset is minus 6 inches or minus 4 inches. Do this. So make sure this is 3 inches and this is also 3 inches. This is 3 inches. This is 3 inches. It's perfect. And then we'll just dimension these and hit them equal. Same thing here. Equal. And even if the dimension ended up being different, because we're going to set it to the same parameter, everything's going to get resolved regardless. So don't worry about this. We're just going to select these two and we're going to give it the cap width and depth. So it's nice. And then we're going to go back, hit exit, and extrusion end. Again, we only want it to have the cap thickness. So hit that. For the material, we're going to also assign it the cap material. Perfect. Hit enter, and there you are. There is your parametric column all ready to go. So with that, I'm actually going to just save this family in my design folder. And then what we'll do is we'll load up a sample project and test it out. See if it actually works out like we want it to. Okay. sorry, just on the other screen right now. I'm gonna replace the file that I was already working on. So that's perfect. Just gonna close these two. We'll go file, we'll go new, create a new project, and new Imperial multidiscipline. That's fine, whatever. Okay, so let's just create some type of floor. We'll do a 4-inch floor, and this is huge. I don't want something that big. Let's just create something like this. Hit enter, and then we'll also create a roof at level 2. That's fine, and we'll just create a small little roof here, and we'll, for the sake of simplicity, let's not define any roof slopes. Let's see what that looks like in 3D. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Wow, this looks really bad. I envisioned it to be a bit different, but let's go in here, edit the footprint, and let's just create it to be just as wide as our floor here. Perfect. And then we're actually going to just go load into project and close. And there it is. So let's place it here. That's how it's going to look. And you can go into textures and you can see it brought all the materials with it. But at any point you can go in the edit type and you can give any of these materials to it as well as any of these dimensions. So let's test it out. So we know that this is at level 2. And if we actually look at our elevations, elevation level 2 is actually at 12 feet. So this is perfect. Let's test it out. So let's set the column height to be, this was at 9 feet. So really, I'm just gonna go, let's say this is 5 feet now. Let's hit apply and you can see it's starting to do everything we want it to do really. Let's say the base we want it to be 2 feet instead of 1 feet, or like something crazy like 4 feet by 4 feet. And then molding thickness, we want it to be like 8 inches. And then molding offset, we want it to be like 6 inches. I'm really like going crazy here. And column height, let's say we want it to be 8 feet. Column depth and width, let's say we want it to be 18 inches. And cap width and depth, let's make that 18 inches as well. And cap thickness, let's make it 12 inches. And let's hit apply, hit OK, and you can see like this thing is fully parametric. Okay, and the way it looks kind of ugly right now because we have the cap the same width as our column. And you can kind of see that the column depth and width is 1'6". Cap is also the same. So let's make the cap like 2'8" or something like that. And you can see, right? So fully parametric, and let's make the base bigger. So let's say we want the base to be like 8 feet. And you can see the base is coming out quite a bit up to now. So fully parametric, and at any point you can go into the family, add more parameters if you really want. But this is awesome. This is crazy. So if we actually go back and edit the family right now, it kind of looks like that right now. What if you wanted to actually create some type of indents here? How I would do that is I would just go into create voids, so void extrusion, and you would pick a plane. So I would pick maybe this side of the column, and then I will actually just go into the elevation like this, hit the square button, maybe I'll offset it minus 2 inches or something like that, and then do this, and then say, okay, the extrusion is going to go 1 inch into the column. And there you go. So you can see you can easily create very nice looking columns, and they're going to be fully parametric. So when you bring them into your project, you can really multiply them. You can do much more than doing your generic basic models, because if you're doing it using your generic models, because you can actually just come here into component, model in place, go under columns and start modeling that whole column in, but you're going to lose the parametric capabilities. This allows you to really take this, make a copy. You can come in here, edit type, rename it, and you can say, okay, this one is 24" by 8", whatever. Give it a unique name, create another one that's different. Super easy. You can take it to different projects, different houses you're working on. The sky's the limit with this. So I really hope this provides you guys with some benefit. If you guys are interested in this family, please like, subscribe. But regardless, if you like and subscribe, I'll give it to you. Just comment below saying I want it, and I will get in touch with you, and I can send you the family. So thanks, everyone. This video got a bit longer than usual, so I appreciate you staying and watching the whole video. Thank you, and have yourself a great day.